before someone falls for you, before the butterflies, before the late-night thoughts, before the heart starts doing things the mind cannot explain. There is a moment, a quiet one, a moment of stillness. And most people completely miss it, because they are too busy talking. Here is what psychology has discovered, and what almost nobody is willing to admit. The most powerful attraction between two people does not begin with words. It does not begin with charm, or compliments, or the perfect thing to say. It begins in silence. It begins in the space between words. In the pause. In the look that lasts 1 second too long. In the text that was read, but not answered right away. In the presence of someone who does not need to fill every moment with noise. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where attraction is born. And once you understand this, truly understand it, you will never see human connection the same way again. You have felt this before. Maybe you like someone. And you talk too much. You explained yourself too much. You made yourself too available. And slowly, something died. The energy shifted. They pulled back. And you could not understand why, because you did everything right. Or maybe it was the opposite. Someone came into your life who barely said anything. They were calm, composed. They did not chase you. They did not overwhelm you with messages or compliments. And somehow, you could not stop thinking about them. You replayed the smallest moments. A glance, a half smile, the way they paused before they spoke, like every word meant something. And you asked yourself, why this person? Why them? This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is psychology. This is how the human mind was always designed to work. Silence pulls people in. Noise pushes them away. Psychology shows that human attraction is, at its core, driven by one single force: mystery. The human brain is a pattern recognition machine. It is always searching for information, always trying to complete the picture. When someone is too open, too loud, too eager, too available, the brain gets all the information it needs immediately. There is no pattern to complete. There is no mystery to solve. And without mystery, there is no pull. But when someone is calm, quiet, selective with their words and their energy, the brain cannot complete the picture. It keeps searching. It keeps returning. This is why you cannot stop thinking about certain people. It is not because they are better looking. It is not because they are smarter or funnier. It is because they left space in your mind. Space that your brain is desperately trying to fill. What most people don't realize is, this happens below the level of conscious thought. You do not decide to be attracted to the quiet, calm, mysterious person. You simply are. Because your subconscious mind has been activated by something it cannot fully understand. And the human mind always wants what it cannot fully understand. There is a reason the most magnetic people in any room speak last. They listen first. They observe. They let others fill the space with words. And when they finally speak, everyone listens. Psychology calls this strategic silence. And it is one of the most powerful social tools a human being can use, not because it is manipulative, but because it is rare. Think about someone who talks constantly, who fills every gap in conversation with noise, who responds instantly to everything, always has a comment, always needs to be heard. Now think about someone who pauses before they respond, who chooses their words like they matter, who can sit in silence with you and make it feel comfortable, safe, interesting. Which person feels more powerful to you? Which person do you want to understand more deeply? The pause is not weakness. The pause is not awkwardness. The pause is power. Psychology shows that people who tolerate silence comfortably are perceived as more confident, more intelligent, and, critically, more attractive. Because that calm stillness signals something deep to the subconscious mind. It says, I do not need your validation. I am complete without your reaction. And nothing, is more magnetic than a person who needs nothing from you. Imagine someone you are drawn to. You send them a message. You see it has been read. They do not reply immediately. And what happens inside you? Your mind starts moving. You start wondering, what are they doing? What are they thinking? Did I say something wrong? Do they like me? That mental activity, that searching, that wondering, that is attraction deepening in real time. Most people think fast replies build connection. And yes, consistency matters. But psychology reveals something more subtle. The small, natural delay, the space between contact, activates the brain's reward system. It is the same psychological mechanism behind why people get addicted to certain things. Unpredictable rewards. Inconsistent responses. The brain does not get addicted to what is always there. It gets addicted to what it almost has. A woman once told me she fell deeply for someone she barely knew. Not because of what he said to her, but because of how he made her feel in the silence between conversations. She said, "When he didn't reply, I thought about him more than when he did." That is not confusion. That is human psychology working exactly as designed. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where attraction is born. Most people, when they like someone, perform. They become louder, funnier, more animated. They talk more, smile more, try harder. They turn themselves into a version they think the other person wants to see. And here is the painful truth about that. Performance signals insecurity. And insecurity kills attraction slowly. The subconscious mind of the person watching you perform picks up on something it cannot name. It senses the effort. It senses the need. And it pulls back, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Because deep attraction is not triggered by someone who is trying to impress you. It is triggered by someone who simply is. Someone who sits in a room and does not need to own it. Someone who can look at you without needing you to look back. Someone whose presence is quiet but undeniable. Psychology calls this non-anxious presence. And it is one of the rarest, most attractive qualities a human being can possess. Think about someone in your life who has this quality. Someone who never seemed to be performing. Who was just there, calm, grounded, themselves. I promise you, that person crossed your mind more than once in a quiet moment. Because presence without performance is unforgettable. Before two people ever exchange a single word, the eyes have already had an entire conversation. Psychology research shows that sustained eye contact, the kind that lasts just 1 second longer than normal, triggers a measurable emotional response in the human brain. It activates the same neural pathways associated with deep emotional bonding. 1 second. That is all it takes. Not words. Not touch. Not a perfectly crafted message. A single, calm, unhurried look. And most people do not know how to hold it. They look away too fast. They get nervous. They break the moment before it becomes something real. But the person who can hold that gaze, softly, without aggression, without desperation, that person plants something in your mind. Something quiet. Something deep. Something that stays. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where attraction is born. There is a pattern you have seen before. Someone likes another person. They can feel the connection slipping. So they do what feels natural. They reach out more. They text more. They try harder. They make themselves more available, more present, more everything, and the other person disappears, not because they are cruel. Not because the connection was not real, but because of a deep, ancient psychological law that governs human attraction. We are wired to want what moves away from us. We lose interest in what moves toward us too fast. This is not a game. This is not manipulation. This is evolutionary psychology operating beneath conscious thought. Think about it this way. Imagine two rivers. One river rushes toward you, loud, fast, overwhelming, impossible to ignore but also impossible to appreciate. The other river moves at its own pace. Calm, steady, unhurried. It does not need you to follow it. It simply flows. Which river draws you closer? Which one makes you want to sit beside it and stay? Psychology shows that the act of not chasing, of remaining emotionally still while others move, creates a gravitational pull that words and effort simply cannot manufacture. I once knew a man who was deeply in love with someone who barely noticed him. He sent long messages. He made grand gestures. He explained his feelings with perfect honesty. And she remained distant. Then one day, he stopped. Not out of strategy. Out of exhaustion. Out of self-respect. He went quiet. He focused on himself. He stopped reaching, and within weeks, she came back. Confused by her own feelings. Drawn to something she could not name. What she was drawn to was the silence. The stillness. The man who had finally stopped performing and simply became. When you stop chasing, you stop signaling need. And when need disappears, attraction has room to breathe. Observe. Be still. Let the silence do what words never could. Most people are afraid of silence. In conversations, they rush to fill it. In relationships, they rush to resolve it. When someone goes quiet, they panic. They overthink. They send the follow-up message. They ask if everything is okay. They reach, again and again, into the silence, trying to pull the other person back out, and in doing so, they reveal something critical. They reveal that silence makes them uncomfortable. And discomfort is the opposite of strength. But here is what psychology shows about the people who can sit in silence, both externally and internally. They are perceived as deeply, powerfully self-contained, and self-containment is one of the most attractive qualities the human mind can recognize in another person. A woman once described someone she could not stop thinking about. She said, "He never seemed bothered. Not in a cold way. Just settled. Like nothing could shake him." And I kept wanting to be around that feeling. That feeling she was describing has a name in psychology. It is called emotional regulation. The ability to feel things deeply without being controlled by them. The ability to be present without being reactive, and it is almost always communicated not through words, but through silence. The way someone pauses instead of reacting. The way they absorb difficult information without breaking. The way they can look at chaos and remain still. That stillness is not coldness. It is mastery. And mastery is magnetic. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where attraction is born, and the person who has learned to wear silence like armor, calm on the outside, deep on the inside, that person changes the emotional temperature of every room they enter, without saying a single word. And now we arrive at the final sign. The deepest one. The one that explains something you have probably felt but never been able to explain. Why do certain people stay in your mind long after they are gone? Not the loudest people. Not the most talkative. Not the ones who told you the most about themselves. The ones who revealed just enough. The ones who left space. The ones who made you feel something without fully explaining what it was. Psychology calls this the Zeigarnik effect, the human brain's tendency to remember unfinished things far more powerfully than completed ones. When someone gives you everything, every thought, every feeling, every detail, your brain closes the file. It is complete. It moves on. But when someone gives you almost everything, when they leave one door slightly open, one question slightly unanswered, one feeling slightly unresolved, your brain cannot close the file. It keeps returning to it. At night. In quiet moments. In the middle of unrelated conversations. The unfinished feeling becomes a haunting. And that haunting is what people call attraction. Think about the person who has lived in your mind the longest. I promise you, they were not the most expressive. They were the most mysterious. They left something unresolved in you. Something your mind has been trying to finish ever since. That is not weakness. That is not obsession. That is the deepest form of psychological connection, built not on what was said, but on what was left in silence. So here is what you now understand that most people never will. Attraction is not a performance. It is not a script. It is not the perfect message sent at the perfect time. Attraction is a feeling. And feelings are not created by noise. They are created in the quiet spaces, in the pauses, in the stillness between moments, in the calm of someone who does not need to prove themselves, in the mystery of someone who reveals themselves slowly, deliberately, like pages of a book you cannot put down. The most magnetic people in the world are not the loudest. They are not the most charming or the most expressive. They are the ones who have mastered something rare, the art of being deeply present, without being fully known. They observe without reacting. They feel without performing. They attract without chasing. And the world, without fully understanding why, cannot stop moving toward them. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where attraction is born. Remember that. Not just for relationships, but for every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every moment you feel the urge to fill the space with words that do not need to be said. Let the silence speak, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. If this video made you see something differently today, if it reminded you of someone or something you have felt but never had words for, drop one word in the comments right now. Just one word that describes how silence has shown up in your life. And if someone came to mind while you were watching this, someone whose silence you have been trying to understand, share this with them. Not with an explanation. Not with a message. Just share it quietly. And let the silence do the rest.